is consumer 8K TV dead? And the reason I'm asking that is that the last time I went all the way out to Vegas for CES, the show floor was full of 8K TVs, mainly from Samsung. Their Neo QLED 8Ks were the big push, because the 4Ks were stripped of many of the higher end features to try and push people into buying an 8K TV. LG had one or two 8K nano LED TVs at that point. And I do believe that TCL had an 8K TV on their show floor as well the last time I was at CES, which was 2020. This time around, I struggled to find an 8K TV. Samsung still had their new QLED TVs, but didn't have it on the main stand on the show floor. Their TVs were all in a room elsewhere on the show floor. And LG had an 8K Z3 OLED. But apart from that, I'm struggling. Oh yes, there was the Inkjet 8K TV from TCL, which was a concept, so not one that you could buy. So, has everybody lost interest with 8K? And before I give you, well, before I give you my thoughts on this, let's just round robin round the tables here. Doug, any interest in 8K TV? Any thoughts as to why it's maybe losing a little bit of traction?
I do have an interest in 8K TV, but only when they start bringing out TVs that are the size of my projector screen, because then you'll really start to see the benefit, and actually you might want to start thinking about a TV over a projector. I'm saying that because I've just got a massive telly in my room, and it's something that I'm considering at the moment, but I certainly couldn't abandon a projector screen at this stage because they don't make tellies big enough. But on really large screens, I can see the merits. On anything more sensibly sized, I'm not even sure your eye can fully resolve 4K, reasonable seating distance. So I don't know whether you can even see the extra resolution.
Okay. Ian, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's the kind of thing you're always going to be interested in it because you always want the next biggest and best thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm different to Doug in that I don't have a TV that's going to be big enough to make use of 8K, so I would be able to appreciate the benefits even if it was out there. And the other thing as well, you just don't see anything that appeals to me that says this is in 8K. So in terms of the content that's out there as well, there's nothing that I feel I'll be missing out on by not having an 8K TV at the moment. Whether that changes might depend on more TVs coming out. And so on and so forth. So it becomes a bit of a catch-22 situation. But yeah, always going to be interested in it because there's always something bigger and better out there. But this might be something that's a little bit further away than some might be thinking.
Ned?
It does nothing for me. I mean, yeah, okay, I'm not a bleeding edge technology person, and thanks to streaming services, I am watching more content in the native resolution of my 4K television. But I still think it probably doesn't hit 50% of the content that I watch is in 4K. And there's just it has to be content driven, and there just doesn't seem to be any of it. And then, looking at some of the figures for the distances and sizes needed to appreciate a further difference, it just strikes me as negligible. The gains are relatively small for a Herculean increase in the complexity of filming it, editing it, and sending it to you.
Yeah.
It's not to say that, going forward as internet speeds improve and other, obviously the ability to do special effects in these resolutions. It's never going to happen. I just don't think in the end of January 2023 that there's a significant upswing in demand for it. It's just, you're buying hardware for which there is virtually no content, any meaningful content, and then still less watchable content. Someone else might know this. I was under the impression when the Tokyo Olympics happened that wasn't that supposed to have a native 8K feed.
Yes, and it did.
Did it?
Yes, but it was only to Asian markets, as I understand it, that were capable of taking it, and it was a very small output. But again, it was NHK who worked with the BBC in developing the delivery methods for that. It did happen. You've all three of you have kind of hit the nail on the head. There is an apathy in the market. There are regulations that they have to get around that have been in the pipeline for a while now in terms of power consumption. And at this moment in time, we're edge drinking valuable resources like water. But also, when you're using a lot of power, it's not the done thing at this moment in time to use a lot of power. We should be thinking about how we use the resources. And just to give you a figure, there was actually Marek at TCL that mentioned this in one of our videos, and it's very, very true. I had two 65-inch TVs from Samsung next to each other not that long ago. One was a 4K, one was an 8K. Basically the same features across both TVs, apart from the panel that was being used. The 8K TV was 50% of the brightness of the 4K TV. The reason for that is pixel density. You got more pixels. You then have to pass the light through those pixels. Because you got more pixel density, you need more light to push through to get just the same brightness as a 4K TV. So to hit 1,000 nits, you would need a shed load of power and a shed load of light.
40-volt commercial grade
to hit the same light output as a 4K TV. That's one of the drawbacks. And now again, we're talking about LED LCD technology there. It's not the same for obviously OLED, which is now becoming a thing. 8K is now becoming a thing with OLED. So that's not a huge issue, and power consumption should be a get around. But that's one of the big things that manufacturers don't want to talk about at the minute, is the power consumption of these things, and that the EU is bringing in regulations. So 8K TV might, for a while, not really happen in the EU. And the UK still follow the EU regulations, even though we're Brexit and all the rest of it. We still follow that. So it's the same for the UK as well as the EU. The other thing is, there is just no appetite for 8K in the community out there that produces the content. TV don't want to know. Even though NHK and the BBC can do that with the Olympics, the amount of money that would have to be spent just in terms of transmission equipment and being able to store it, being able to film it, then edit, and all the rest of it. For TV, it's prohibitive. For film, even more so, because you then get into effects and all the rest of it. Effects are still rendered at 2K in the vast majority of cases. A lot of film are still output at 2K DI. Very few 4K DIs going out. Even now, and we've had 4K for a long time now, we're only just getting up to the point where some content producers, some studios are now, flipping over and thinking, right, well, we can output a 4K DI now, and that's now only just becoming a thing. The other thing with 8K is that it has to do a lot of processing. So you need a really good image processor, video processing, which costs quite a bit of money, which means that the TVs are going to cost quite a bit of money because of the processing power. Because if you think about it, it has to upscale all content that's available at the minute. There's very little 8K native content. What there is usually on YouTube, and it's a demo footage that was shot on Red cameras that can do 8K, and maybe a couple of other professional cameras that are capable of doing 8K. There's some consumer level cameras now that will do 8K. Nobody wants to watch your home videos in 8K. They want proper produced content. So that is a huge negative at the minute. So this is where the apathy comes in. Is 8K dead? No. It's kind of been sidelined at the minute while everything else catches up. And you're not going to see a huge push. I mean, Samsung have invested quite a bit of money in this. They will still obviously be pushing it as their premium brand TVs and so on. But you're not going to see that much from other manufacturers at the minute because the demand is just not there. Hollywood's not interested at the minute. They're maybe shooting in 8K, but they're certainly not finishing in 8K. And what they finish in is the important thing. And at the minute, they're only just hitting 4K in terms of what they're doing. And again, the processing power, the storage that you're talking about, there will not be no physical media that does 8K just because of the storage that would be required or the compression that would be required. The other thing, the upscaling, you're looking at using upscaling to sell your 8K TV on the assumption that people are going to watch 4K. Well, 4K is still not that well used. So then you're looking at HD, which means you're having to do quite a bit of upscaling there. and creating quite a bit. If you try and watch an SD image on TV, that TV processor is having to make up 97% of the image. It's making it up because the resolution is just not there. So again, it's great technology when it works, when it's on a huge screen, 120 inches or whatever. It makes sense because you get the benefit of that pixel density of the pixel pitch. You get that sharper image, you get more detail. And I've seen demonstrations where it has looked absolutely fantastic. Ed's seen the same demonstrations when he was at CES, and it does look amazing. You don't see what's going on behind the curtain in the background with all the processing and everything else that's going on. But yeah, it looks great. It's going to come, people. It's not dead. It's just sidelined for the time being. And everybody on the podcast has kind of hit the nail on the head with all their comments. So what are your thoughts? Is 8K appealing? Is it something that you're interested in? Have you got an 8K TV? How have you found living with your 8K TV? Has it been everything that you hoped it was going to be? Is it relying too much on upscaling and so on? Give us your feedback. Do it now in the live chat or on this podcast in the forums. You can head in, give your comments, or you can comment in on the YouTube video once the live stream's finished. Hit us up in that area, in the comments area. Let us know your thoughts. What do you think? 8K dead? Is it meaningless to you, or is it something that you think we'll eventually move over to once everybody's up to speed? So now, having covered all those points, anything else you guys want to come in with 8K? Doug?
No, you mentioned right at the end for me. I don't watch a lot of SD content, but a huge amount of what I'm watching is in 1080.
Mm.
And it just strikes me as awkward when you're having to create vast swathes of stuff. And it's, let's face it, you sit down to an evening of terrestrial television, that's as good as it's going to get.
Mm.
And, Phil, you will admit in your weaker moments that you actually became quite fond of Strictly Come Dancing. And that's not due to be in 4K anytime soon.
Yeah.
So if you are pushing a piece of technology which has to run to make the image look as good as it did on your old television, you're up against it. There's no getting around that.
Absolutely, and I think the manufacturers have suddenly realised that as well and thought, well, hang on a minute, we've still got quite a way to go with 4K, and we've still got to get content up to that level, because to make the jump to 8K, you need at least 70% of people's viewing content to be really 4K. High quality 4K or really high quality HD. And the vast majority of channels still in the UK are SD and really, really crap SD at that. So yeah, to make it worthwhile and make that jump up, I think they need to concentrate on 4K for at least the next 5 to 7 years. Get the pipeline working, get the streaming services up to speed, get the infrastructure in there, and then it makes more sense. If you're upscaling a 4K image to 8K, it's nice and simple for the processor to do that. You're not making up vast swathes of the content, and it looks good, and it does look good when you see it done properly. But yeah, it's a little bit away, and I did find it interesting that walking around CES and going to our main core areas, which was TV, the lack of 8K and the lack of talk about 8K, apart from Samsung, was really quite apparent compared to last time I did the show floor 2 years ago.